Welcome to Muse Monday, a conversation series with emerging artists and recent graduates about making it, mastery, and being a multi-hyphenate in the entertainment industry today. My name is Bryce Dallas Howard, and I'm founder of Nine Muses Entertainment, and you are about to meet the wonderful Nia Farrell, who will be your host for the series.
Hey all, it's Nia with Nine Muses Entertainment. Today's special guest is Stephanie Gong. Stephanie is an actor, producer, filmmaker, and proud advocate of Asian and Asian American representation in the entertainment industry. We're going to talk about knowing when and how to make a creative shift in school and post-grad.
Hey Stephanie.
Hi Nia.
Welcome to Muse Monday. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good to be here.
Where are you at? Let's check in. How are you doing?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm at my parents' house temporarily. I'm sitting at my mom's vanity, which is very exciting because she was not as glam when I was 13 and wanting to do all of this kind of stuff. But I have it now, so blessed with the good setup. But pretty good. I'm moving in a week. 3 days. That's crazy. So I'll be moving in the midst of our inaugural heat wave in New York City. So that'll be fun, but just hoping for the best and preparing for the worst.
Amazing. Well, before we get into all the incredible stuff that you've been doing since graduating last fall, was it?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted you to take us back to 16-year-old Stephanie, who's in high school. And 16-year-old Stephanie made a 5-year plan, didn't she?
Yeah, Stephanie in the year 2014 did a lot of weird things. One of them was make a 5-year plan. I drew out a ladder and I had the 5 steps to success for what I wanted for my acting career. And it didn't go according to plan. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but at least for me, I was one of those kids who got into acting pretty late in the game. I didn't have big grand aspirations to be an actor from like the age of 5. I really only discovered it when I started high school, and then I really found a calling for it when I turned 16. So right at the end of my sophomore year of high school. And I was one of those kids in their like naivety said, okay, this is my 5-year plan. Step 1, get into a great college conservatory program. Already, that's the first misstep because I went to NYU, which has like a part-time conservatory.
Kind of there. You got into a great school.
Yeah.
So step 1, half complete.
Step half check. Step 2 was to get into like a main stage show at said school. That happened kind of. Step 3 was to go off Broadway. Step 4 was to go like even more like bigger off Broadway. And step 5, I was like on Broadway in 5 years. How impossible.
Just a short year, just moving up the ranks.
Yeah.
Works, right?
And the crazy thing is when I was in college, the first 2 years of my training at NYU, I said, you know what? This is what I want to do, and I'm going to work really hard and get it. And I got like the first 3 steps, which was very crazy in the first 2 years. Like I ended up doing the All Studio Festival, and like, so our studio's production of 12 Angry Men ended up going onto the main stage, which is amazing and great and awesome. And then I ended up that summer after doing an off-Broadway show, which was like, crazy. So my dreams of like making it big on Broadway were really inflated and like, just so excitable, and it was all happening and everything lined up. And then I did the show, and then I realized I don't actually like musical theater as much as I thought I did. I love watching it, but boy, it is a craft made for specific people, and I'm not one of them. So then I came at a crossroads, and I was like, okay, so the top 2 steps of this 5-year plan are no longer applicable. And I found myself kind of stuck at the end of my sophomore year into my junior year, trying to figure out, what do I do? I've scrapped my plan. And I'm a serial planner. So for someone who is like a little bit about those kinds of things, I was just so at a loss for words and for direction of what I was going to do next.
especially when kind of what we've been taught was like there's a path. As much as people say that like everyone has their own individual journey, there's a sense of like, yeah, you do off Broadway a little better off Broadway, and then suddenly you're at the Nederlander or something like that.
Exactly. I mean, it's part of the thing that happens when you go into college and you meet all these people in your arts program who have of a similar, track in their mind. And it helped a lot that you were broken up into different studios and then found your crew and understood like that Broadway is not the only goal, that there's more to life than just musical theater on a huge stage with 5,000 seats in the audience. But I was really fueling that dream for a while.
Was there a certain show that you saw or like something a teacher brought up that was like, oh wait, there's life beyond Broadway?
There was no really huge kind of a shift that a teacher had said. It was just all of a sudden I was doing this non-ec show and working 10 hours a day for $700 a month, which I know sounds like amazing when you're first going out, but then when you break it down, it's not even a livable wage. It was grueling and I am not made for it. I wanted something that I could, focus more on character instead of necessarily like song and dance, which I'm not the strongest at either one of those things. It's honestly a miracle I got into that show in the first place. I was surrounded by so many people who were so passionate about musical theater and so wanted to be there, and I came to the realization that maybe it's not super for me. And I needed to find things more in straight theater, experimental, or like even film to sort of satisfy the itch I was feeling.
Yeah. So you have this itch, this sense of like where I'm at isn't necessarily where I want to be. What are the steps that you took to make the transition into where you are now?
So the steps to the transition. I think the first thing I did was panic a lot, as we all do when things don't go the way you thought they did. But after that, I started reading a lot of plays. I just read material that talked about producing theater, that talked about producing film, that talked about and watching videos that were going into like what happens behind the scenes in theater productions or films as a whole. And that sort of piqued my curiosity. I also, in college, joined Delta Kappa Alpha, which is a professional fraternity centered around the cinematic arts. So it helped that I had that community to sort of lean into and learn from other people, because most of the people in that fraternity were screenwriters or filmmakers. It was very helpful to garner some sort of, inspiration and support from this community. And it was very, very helpful and made me feel a lot less lost than I did originally.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have friends to go to in college, to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. You seem to know a little bit of what I maybe want to do. Can I pick your brain about it? So it's a lot of, self research and then asking other people to give some insight on a potential route you feel like you may be taking.
Right, like after the panic sets, I think there's like another step that's like acknowledging the fact that you don't know. Being able to say, I don't know, opens up a bunch of possibilities, because if you're only focusing on like the limited information that you do have, there is that sense of like getting stuck. But like you said, like reaching out to community and like reading more and watching more, like that can open up like a lot of ideas for what to do next.
And especially asking like the question, what do I know? What interests me? What do I have even the slightest like hankering to do, or what am I fiending for creatively next? It's that I think was the most helpful thing to get me out of this sort of depressive rut of like, oh my God, I don't want to do musical theater anymore. what am I going to do with my life?
Well, exactly. Listening to that internal gut of like, okay, what am I naturally drawn to? What kind of like stirs my creative soul?
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool. So you've asked the questions and you made the transition. What are you up to now?
So a lot has changed since then. That first semester of my junior year was the big, like, I don't know what to do next. Like, what do I do? Through the stages of grief, and then, the acknowledgement that, like, there are things that are interesting to me. And so the second half of my junior year was when I did the Nine Muses lab with Bryce, and you were my TA, which was amazing. And Arianna was our TA as well. And I just got to meet so many other people who are also kind of in the same boat of, I have all these different interests, but I'm in this acting program, did the training, loved it, but then had an itch for something else that would satisfy them creatively or help them explore, other avenues in their career. And that was really helpful and reassuring and very inspiring to be in the same room as everyone.
Yeah, I want to give you more credit than I think you're giving yourself. Because I remember those conversations where Arianna was talking about, like, Stephanie, my best friend, I asked her to like come into like a production meeting, and then she was taking notes and she was building the calendar. If there's something in you that you were like, I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I'm going to help out where I'm needed. And that kind of energy, again, will open up so many opportunities. And I think that's a really like key thing for people to know. It's like, make yourself available and opportunities will come.
Oh, thank you, Nia. Yeah, I mean, I have always, pegged my career as an artist to be of service to others, especially like now that I want to do a lot of producing work. It's like, how can I make things as easy and as smooth running as possible? But that's where I discovered it in Bryce's class, the Nine Muses lab. I suddenly had all of these ideas flowing about Asian American representation and finding a platform. And then I had like an idea to create a platform, which is a much bigger undertaking than I thought it was. And it's still a work in progress. We're always working on, finding other Asian American artists to platform their work, but we're at a little bit of a standstill given coronavirus right now.
Can you give us a little overview of what that platform is and kind of what your mission is with that work?
So it is a multimedia digital platform, technically a website, but we like to give it a fancier name, that gives the spotlight for Asian American editorials on art or life as an Asian American in general, as well as making the distinction between the nuances of being Asian American and being Asian in America. Because I feel like that's a distinction that's very brushed over, and we sort of are all glommed in the same group, even though they're two very different experiences coming to America for college and then taking up residency to do the work that you want to do, versus growing up, being born here and having to, grow and learn from all of these different experiences and prejudices that were put against you. That being said, we do everything from editorial pieces on the Asian American experience or the Asian experience in America, as well as curate video and portraiture content together on the site, as well as create some of our own in-house collaborative work. So yeah, we're also doing a podcast. This is a podcast mic that I purchased during this lab, a great investment. And we're doing a podcast called Spill the Boba. Our first episode is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm shamelessly plugging my own content right now.
I love the work. Like podcast, I'm like, yes, plug away. Like I'm like goading you to tell me about the work so more people can be exposed to that nuanced conversation that you're creating a platform for.
It feels so weird to say it sometimes, but like I'm really proud of the work that the platform is doing, as well as my friends and collaborators. But aside from the platform, I got to do the Nine Muses Lab for a second semester because I took over as the TA for the next semester. And from there, I got to get my hands in writing and like true producing for the first time for film. And I shaved my head for said film to act in it. And now we're sort of going through the post-production process, trying to figure out where we can get the resources to finish the film, and then also simultaneously having this epiphany of like, we need to change everything in the film, and re-editing and now sending it back out to everyone for feedback. It's been a pretty crazy process, but I'm so grateful to have had the friends that I did who worked with me on it to help me get through it, as well as, you know, put an Asian American story up on a screen.
That's awesome. Well, to wrap up everything, we started with a 5-year plan that kind of feels like hierarchical, right? Climbing the ladder.
Yes.
We could create like almost like a horizontal 5-year any time in your life when you're experiencing a transition. Like, what are the things you can reach out to when you don't know?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is when you're broadening your horizons, it's to build a network of support, both personally and professionally, because a lot of the time, especially if this transition is happening while you're in college, a lot of people are going to be going through the same thing that you're going through, and they're going to be within arm's reach. So don't be afraid to talk to your friends about trying something new, or asking someone who's not in your program to pick their brain on something that you're interested in. It's not a competition. We're not on a ladder trying to kick each other off the rungs. Like, we're here to pull each other up. And the same thing will happen to a lesser extent once you graduate, but also the friends that you make in college, as well as the people that you meet in your program or outside of your program, in sometimes almost meaningless interactions, you actually can still reach out to, and chances are people remember you. And it's very reassuring to lean on that support when you feel like you're doubting your ability as an artist to grow into something that is a little more multi-hyphenate. But at the same time, those people who support you personally will also bolster your confidence to grow professionally and reach out and make those connections to broaden your horizons even further.
Yeah. Well, you've made not knowing a much less terrifying experience.
I hope so.
I feel, I don't know, like charged to step into the world and be like, I don't know, what is there to learn? And I think that'll, I don't know, create more like innovation and adaptation with all that we do.
Thank you, Nia, for having me.
Thank you for joining us. You can follow Stephanie in the comments below, and we'll see you next week. It always feels weird. I'm like, is it like an actor thing where it's like,
yeah, it's like, and scene.
Here, I've arrived.
Yeah.
Started. Oh my goodness, welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, Nia.